I hope everyone likes my new set for my YouTube videos. I love it. So let's get back into making videos, shall we? Today I'm playing with the brand new release. This is called Bots of Love, and we're going to do a little upgrading like Beyonce. And this is a card that I made for a class that I'm doing, and we're going to upgrade it. Okay, so we're taking a piece of Papertrey Inks Blueberry Sky cardstock. I love this color. It's probably my favorite blue cardstock. And I keep all of my scraps in with my cardstock. It's just easier that way. So I love to cut down my front panels to 3.5 by 4 3/4, and that's what I'm doing now with this tonic little guillotine trimmer. So I'm going to do some ink blending on this panel. I'm going to grab my little mat here. I think this is a Ranger craft mat that I like to do some ink blending on. This one I actually cut in half. And some Nuvo blender brushes. I love using those with my Distress Oxides, and that's what I'm going to use. This is the Love Circuit Stencil by Heffy Doodle and some Heffy Doodle MEMO tape. And this is what we're going to use to ink blend on the background today. This is a very low tack tape. In fact, it's probably not the best thing to use for this purpose, so I had to use some extra. My strong muscles wanted to lift it off of the mat. But I'm using Faded Jeans and Blueprint Sketch and Black Soot to ink blend this Love Circuit stencil onto my background. Onto my background. You don't need the two blues. It's hardly noticeable when you see it, and I'm not gonna worry about that next time. We're already ink blending on blue cardstock, and it just doesn't show up that well. So the Black Soot was fabulous. Okay, but I'm doing it again, but this time directly on the card panel so that I can have a gradient of color from the outside into the inside where that heart is. I wish I had paid a little bit more attention to where the highlight of the background was, but I think it turned out okay. So now I am choosing my bots and their accessories for my card. The original card just had the one robot on it, but I want 2 robots, right? That's the meaning of love. To love people, not just yourself. So I'm using VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink and Ranger watercolor paper, and I do stamp this twice to get a good line image on my watercolor paper, and it's perfect. I did it several times so that Dexter could have some to play with. I'm using Ranger clear embossing powder this time to create those wells. I'm going to be coloring with my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. Embossing the image just helps me keep the watercolor inside the lines because, you know, I tend to color outside the lines. So while I'm embossing things, I'm also going to do the sentiment. So I grabbed another piece of the Blueberry Sky cardstock so that it coordinates, and the sentiment, and then I'm going to ink it up with the same VersaFine Clair. This ink is great. This is gonna replace VersaFine Onyx Black for me. The sentiment says, "My heart beeps for you," and I did also emboss this, so I'm going to put clear over the sentiment as well, and then heat it up with my heat tool and let the magic of embossing take over the sentiment. I know that's a bit dramatic, but hey, I'm a bit dramatic. So I love how this turned out. I feel like I've been keeping my heat tool too close to the paper, so I'm working on getting the right distance from the paper to cut down on warpage. So I'm using my Heffy Doodle Strips of Ease, the middle size, and my Sizzix Sidekick to cut out my sentiment. I just line it up on one edge, run it through my Sizzix Sidekick, which gives me the most control for this long, skinny die, and then I've been clipping off the ends instead of trying to line it all up and run it through again, and it's sometimes straight. Maybe not today, but sometimes. I am so sorry that this footage is blurry. I did not intend it to be this way, but I've changed my camera angles and things like that, so I need to get used to the camera being where it is and make adjustments, and I'm sorry. So I really intended this to be like a good zig viewing and I screwed it up. I'm so sorry. You can kind of still tell what I'm doing. What I like to do is add the color in the darkest areas where the shadow would be the deepest, and then draw it out and with not a water brush but my Stampin' Up blender pen. I love these things. They come in a pack of 3 and they have a nice feel when you have them in your hand, and I think they're great quality and they're double-ended. Okay, so I love these things. I linked to a friend of mine who is a Stampin' Up demonstrator. I am not, but that's where you get those. I know that there are others. I've tried others. I like this one. So I'm just adding that color into the darkest portion and then drawing it out kind of like with where the medium shade would be. And then I'd clean off my pen and make sure that there's no more color on there, and then kind of blend it into the lightest part of the image, which would be your highlight area. So that's what I did on all of these images. But this is how it turned out. I love it. I'm definitely going to play with zigs more often. I always say that. And then Copics take over, and then I break out the zigs again, and it's a vicious circle. So I'm using the coordinating dies from the Bots of Love stamps to cut them out with my Sizzix Sidekick, just because it's there and it fits. It fits. I'm going to grab my micro glue dots because I'm going to create a bouquet of flowers, or a cluster of flowers, however you look at it. And I'm going to put one micro glue dot on the flower and then layer those 3 together, kind of so that you can see that it's a bouquet of flowers. A bouquet of flowers. And then I'm going to take the Stampin' Up fine linen twine that's right there on that little roll. I took a very small amount, which in hindsight was a poor choice, because then it took me forever to tie a little bow with my gigantic hands. But I did it, and it looks pretty cool. I have to admit, I like that. I like that little accessory. So now that I've got all of my images cut out, start to put together the card. I'm cutting a little slit in my one robot's hand so that it can hold the heart in its hand. So I've grabbed another micro glue dot and kind of slid it in that slit that I created. I am using double-sided adhesive to adhere some black craft foam to the back of this panel, and then adhere it to my Simon Says Stamp Fog card base. I've used Scotch 3M foam adhesive on just about all the other images and the sentiment to pop everything else up. I'm just placing it justified to the center bottom portion of this card panel, and then put my bots on top of it as if they were standing on it. I wasn't quite sure where to place the other robot, but I did add some bling to the ears of that robot because that robot has winged eyeliner, so I assume also diamonds. So now that is my card. This is the original card that I made, and to the one to the right is slightly upgraded, a little bit extra. So I hope you enjoyed my card video. Find me on social media, and until next time.